Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to take a look at light tanks, but more specifically we're going to take a look at light tanks in the Cold War game mode. Now I'll be the first to admit that I haven't really played Cold War all that much. I've done the medium grind up to the M48 on the Americans, or the Western Alliance I think it's called there, and that's where I've stopped. The only Era 2 tank that I own is the M60 Rise, which isn't a bad tank, but my reason for not playing Cold War at the moment is that there's just not enough variation, and I think I've said this before in other videos where until they have additional tank lines, I feel that every battle is just the same, and personally for me I think that's quite boring. It'll be boring until something new comes along. So the new thing that we have now with the G.I. Joe season is we've got light tanks in there now. The Hiss is one of them, and the Mauler is the second. I don't care too much for the Hiss because quite frankly I think it's ridiculous, but the Mauler, however, is one that I can accept despite the G.I. Joe emblems all over the side of it. The Mauler is actually based on the American HSTV-L, or High Survivability Test Vehicle. The L is Lightweight. It was designed and produced in the 1970s and had a 26 round 75mm autocannon. As you can see in the game here, the 26 rounds has been dropped to 6 rounds in game. It had hydropneumatic suspension and a crew of 3. The original concept behind the HSTV was the US Army needed a light tank that was better than the Sheridan. The Sheridan had several problems. Its survivability wasn't great, but the biggest problem it had was the gun, or the launcher, whichever one you want to call it. And in simple terms, any gun that was capable of knocking out the Russian tank was too heavy for the Sheridan chassis. The compromise they had was the M81 gun missile launcher, and the idea of this was that you could fire heat and anti-tank missiles from the same barrel. In practice, it didn't work out, and the tank basically just sort of faded. The idea for the HSTV was that a smaller tank was needed that could move faster, and in sort of balancing terms, if you were smaller and could move faster, that was equal protection to a heavy tank that was slow and had lots of armor. It went through various changes and upgrades, one of which was called the ELK, Elevated Kinetic Energy Vehicle. It does fascinate me the lengths that the Americans will go to come up with a cool sounding acronym. It doesn't matter how loosely fitting the words are, they just need to vaguely describe what's going on. It's like kinetic energy vehicle. So, okay, I can see where you're going with that. It's just really loosely fits with what this vehicle actually is. But America, don't change, please don't. Anyway, the HSTV was in development and everything was looking good until it was decided that the British L7 105mm gun was the minimum requirement for killing, well, Russian tanks basically. The 75mm that it had was deemed underpowered, the vehicle couldn't equip the L7 gun, and at that point the whole thing was just cancelled. But the concept behind the tank, which was carried on, the development was carried on by the US Marines. Obviously that carried on, and that led to the LAV-25, which is a thing today. So the concept worked, just not for this particular vehicle. But jumping back to the game here, if I remember correctly, the game you're seeing in the background is the third game I played in the Mauler. As with the real life variant, this thing is quick, maneuverable, and the autoloader is pretty good with what I would call a very short reload. I've only got 3 crew skills on my crew, and in conjunction with the camo net, I've got the concealment down to roughly 95 meters. I'm yet to try a fully skilled crew, but I am certain that the concealment for this vehicle could be even lower with the right camo skills. I don't know how low it could be. I still need to try it, but I'm convinced that maybe you could get this thing down to 60, 70 meters. Which, whatever you do, the way it is now it's crazy, and this is what's led me to make this video and talk about what I'm talking about right here. During the True Vision test, I found that even if a tank was right in front of you, that doesn't mean you actually see them, or you know, they can be right there, and if they're not moving, they just sort of blend into the background. You don't even acknowledge that that is an enemy tank. And for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe this is because, you know, you're distracted looking at something else, you've got tunnel vision, I don't know, but whatever it is, you just don't see vehicles. And I believe that light tanking in Cold War relies not only on your vehicle stats and your personal skills and your crew skills, a huge part of it is relying on the enemy team just not noticing you. So many times I've driven past an enemy tank, and you get to within a certain distance, and you think in the back of your head, you're like, oh, okay, I'm getting pretty close to being spotted here. I'm gonna, you know, the light bulb's gonna go off. I'm gonna be seen. I'm gonna get shot. So many times in this tank, I got close, and I thought, wait, they don't even know I'm here. And the same again with enemy vehicles. You know, so many times the enemy vehicle. Well, I'll take it right here for example. Look at this. Now I'm spotted. He didn't even know I was there. Clueless, absolutely clueless. Doesn't even know. And I think you can tell when an enemy vehicle doesn't know you're there, because their vehicle will be moving along fine, absolutely no problems, and then you pull the trigger, they get hit, and suddenly the defecation hits the oscillation, and their turret moves one way, the hull moves the other, and they're probably on the other end thinking, what the hell's going on? Especially in this tank, because you've got this auto loader that's just bam, 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 and you can fly around, totally demolishing the enemy team in this thing. And I think it's absolutely fantastic because you've got the concealment. You know, the tank is practically invisible, and you've got great view range. I'm here playing on port, and you can get similar results to this playing on Malinovka. I mean, you just play it like you do a normal light tank. You know, you do your spotting, you play. I do anyway. I play it the same way, and you just farm all the assists because you don't get spotted. And you might think like everyone thinks, oh, it's True Vision, they can see you, but nope, doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to matter because just because you're there doesn't mean people see you, and it's just like every other light tank. You don't want to be the first tank in, but you know, you can with help from your teammates, you can sneak in, and you can just totally destroy the enemy team. And I personally feel that light tanking in Cold War is easier than World War II, which sounds crazy, but from what I've experienced, what I've played, that's how it is. I've only got 3 skills in this crew. No camo, no concealment skills, nothing. But if you were to add those skills, I think this thing would be insanely good. And on top of that, there's the silver earning. The silver earning in Cold War is incredible. And on that pretty epic result, that's about all I've got for this one. I hope you guys are all still keeping safe, and I'll see you out there.